Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. I hope everybody's had a wonderful Friday so far. Today, we are going to go over our predictions for the first ever 12-team college football playoffs as college football officially begins tomorrow. I cannot wait for that. We'll also talk about the big news coming out of baseball with the Mariners firing manager Scott Cervese last night during our show. Then we'll take a little bit of time to talk about the Browns, what they did this offseason, what we expect for them in the upcoming year, as well as finishing off our show with our famous Friday MLB Power Rankings. But before we get into all of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you are on YouTube, you can also use the super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, again, that message should pop up on the bottom of the screen. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, do me a favor, go and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I appreciate anything you guys do have to say. I appreciate you guys sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to start off our show today talking a little bit about the college football playoff. You see right here, we have our very first 12-team college football playoff. And I went through the trouble of putting together a little bracket here for you, but we've over this entire last week have been going over every single division, every single conference, at least power conference. Of course, there is the one Power 5 conference, so we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into how I got to my Power 5 pick, but this is what it looks like right now. Obviously, the first 4 seeds get a bye, and it's not 100% going to work out this way, but I did put the 4 power conference winners as the teams getting the bye. Now, if you look around here, there's a couple of teams that you may or may not be surprised are on here. We'll start off with the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed I have as Ohio State. When we talked about the Big Ten and the SEC really are those two conferences that are dueling it out for the supremacy. They are head and shoulders above conferences like the ACC, above conferences like the Big 12. But these are the two conferences that are kind of running things as it goes. And Ohio State, I think, has the most returning production as well as a major upgrade at quarterback. I think they are the team to watch out for. They get the number 1 seed. The number 2 seed goes to the Georgia Bulldogs, the team currently ranked as number 1 in the AP preseason poll. They're another team that has a lot of returning talent. Carson Beck is a Heisman favorite as it stands right now, currently ranked up on top of a lot of the quarterback leaderboards for where he might get drafted as it comes into the NFL season, the NFL draft next year. But this Georgia team is going to be great. They're always going to have a great defense. They have had a little bit of off-the-field issues as far as DUIs go and stuff. But if they can get that under control, they should be a great team. The 3 seed goes to the Miami Hurricanes. That's right. The U is back with football. It's been a long time. They're getting a lot of hype this year. A lot of hype is for winning their conference. And the ACC, I think, is going to be pretty tough. There's a lot of teams in here that in the ACC that I think could challenge for a playoff spot. As you see, there are 3 ACC teams in this bracket for me, but there's a couple of other ACC teams that I thought about putting in here, and we'll do some honorable mentions at the end as well. And the 4th conference winner, it's going to Utah. That defense is going to be staunch. They're getting their quarterback back. As long as they can stay healthy, they should be able to take care of business in the Big 12. As we go out to the non-power conference winners, sitting here at number 5, I have Oregon. I think they are the best team that isn't going to win a conference. I think they very easily could be in conversation with teams like Georgia, with teams like Ohio State at the top of the country as far as favorites to win the title go. Then the other team that's up there, finishing out the top 4 currently, at the 6th seed, we have the Texas Longhorns. They obviously still have Quinn Ewers, another guy that is favored to win the Heisman after leading Texas to the semifinals last season, falling just short in a very, very exciting game against Washington. But this should be a lot of fun. As we get to the 7 seed, I have the Florida State Seminoles. Again, they lost a little bit, but they're still an amazing team. They have plenty of talent returning. That is a culture with, lots of great recruiting coming out of it. This is a team that should be great this year. I just think they'll lose in their conference championship game. And at number 8, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide. They get a new coach. Nick Saban is no longer here. I still think they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. They have, obviously, that tradition there, that deep depth of players. A lot of people went away, a lot of players went away, but they still have that great tradition of recruiting all across the country. Kalen DeBoer, winning Coach of the Year, brought in plenty of great players to the transfer portal as well. They should be just fine. At 9, we have another SEC team, the Ole Miss Rebels. This is a team that has a lot of hype going into it this season, and for good reason. I think they could be the best team. They could be the dark horse out of the SEC. You take a look at outside of Georgia, a team that will look to surprise. You obviously have your top 2 favorites in Georgia and Texas, but Ole Miss is that next team on the list that I think could, if they get enough breaks, end up taking the conference. Getting to the double-digit seeds, we have Penn State sitting at 10. They're just going to be solid. Penn State is always a solid team. They always do their job. They always do what's asked of them. I don't know how far they'll go, but this is a team that should win about 10 games, just like they do every other season, and that should be enough to get them into the college football playoff. At 11, I have my big surprise. I put Louisville in there. I know I talked them up a lot. There's a lot of other teams that could take that slot, but I really believe in this Louisville Cardinal team. I think they did a great job in the transfer portal, especially in these last couple seasons, and I think this is the year that they take that big step, and I think they're going to be the surprise team for everyone. And getting to that 12 seed, this is where we have our our non-power conference representative. Currently, I have it in as Boise State. Obviously, Boise State is one of those bigger brands when it comes to the group of 5 schools. They went on that run all those years ago where they were up there in the nation. The other one that I've seen a lot predicted is Liberty. And I've talked about how I don't think Liberty is going to be a great team. They played a cupcake schedule last year. I don't think they're in it. There were a couple of other dark horses that I was thinking about putting in here that I ended up going against because Boise State, I think, is just the best group of 5 school right now. You look at a couple of teams from the Sun Belt. In App State especially, they're getting a lot of buzz, and JMU, James Madison, who has been ranked in the top 25 in each of their first 2 seasons as an FCS school. Now, they did lose their head coach. They lost a lot of talent, but looking at what they did this offseason, they still had their best recruiting class ever, and I think they have a real shot at stealing that spot as well. And the other one, Tulane, I've heard a lot about. That offense is going to be great. I'm a little worried about that defense. So out of those 4 or 5 top contenders, those are the guys that I'm looking at in the group of 5 to make a run at this 12 seed. Currently, I am giving it to Boise State, though. Obviously, they're recruiting their transfer portal class, bringing in former USC 5-star quarterback and not even starting him shows me how they feel about their team. Running through these matchups real quick. Starting with the 5-12, I just think Oregon is going to demolish, or whoever that 5 seed is going to demolish whatever group of 5 school comes in. That one shouldn't be much of a conversation. The 8-9 game between Ole Miss and Alabama, this just feels like kind of wrapping up the nice little tidy bow for Alabama. Obviously, they lost in the semis last year. I feel like getting tossed in the first round kind of puts a nice bow at the end of the true end to their dynasty. 7-10 matchup between Penn State and Florida State. I think that's the most boring matchup on this board, but this one could be really close. I'm giving this one to Florida State just because I don't think Penn State is the best team out of here. And then the final of the first four matchups, Texas takes on Louisville. Again, I don't think this will be very close. I think Louisville is going to be very good, but Texas is undoubtedly one of the best teams in the country. Then we get to our conference winners in their first game, and most of them should get through. I do think that Ohio State and Georgia should get through without much of an issue. The Texas-Miami game should be really close. I like Miami a lot, but I'm going to give the edge to Texas. And Oregon, I think, is a powerhouse. I think they're my third favorite to win this the entirety of the college football playoffs. So I'm moving them up over Utah. Then we get a rematch of the Big Ten title game between Ohio State and Oregon. I'm giving this to Ohio State again, although I was going back and forth on this. The third time they would be playing, it's gonna be interesting in this one. And then Georgia, Texas, again, rematch of the SEC title game. I'm giving this one to Texas. It swaps out what it was before. And then Ohio State takes on Texas in the championship game. Texas falls just short yet again, and Ohio State and Ryan Day get their first national championship since 2014. Let me know what you think of this bracket, though. I'm very excited for college football. I can't wait for it to start tomorrow. All eyes on the biggest game of week 0, Florida State versus Georgia Tech. Very excited to see how Florida State comes out. But let me know what you think of this bracket. Any changes you would make? Anyone that I completely missed on? Any hot takes that I had that you disagreed with? Throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk all about the manager change in Seattle. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.